My darling children, the sound of the credit card machine declining, a shrill and final chirp in the quiet, opulent lobby, was the most satisfying sound I had heard in over a year. My son-in-law, Marcus, stared at the machine, then at the hotel manager, his face a comical mask of confusion and rage, while the young woman beside him, the one he had spent the last week parading around my husband's resort, had the decency to look mortified. The manager, a dear and loyal friend, simply slid the final bill across the marble counter, a bill for over $27,000, and said, in a voice as calm as the sea outside, "I'm so sorry for the misunderstanding, Mr. Thorne, but the family discount is for family only." Hello, everyone. I'm what you can call Grandma Adeline. My full name is Adeline Monroe. I am 75 years old, and I am from the beautiful, historic city of Charleston, South Carolina. This is a story about a betrayal that took place in the one place on earth I considered a sanctuary. It is a secret I have held in my heart for the last year, a story whose most painful details even my own daughter does not know. She knows her marriage ended, but she doesn't know that I was there, a silent witness to the final, flamboyant act of her husband's infidelity. Until today, I finally have the courage to speak it aloud, not to air dirty laundry, my dears, but to illustrate how the quietest people can wield the most unexpected power. Before I begin, my sweethearts, would you do an old woman a great kindness? Please, if you would, like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support feels like a quiet vote of confidence, giving me the strength to finally share this story I have kept hidden for so long. You see, children, this story isn't just about a vacation. It's about a legacy. My late husband, Arthur, and I didn't just stay at the Cypress Key Grand resort, we built it. From the first shovel in the ground to the last tassel on the curtains, it was our dream, our life's work. Arthur was the architect, the visionary. I was the interior designer, the one who chose every color, every fabric, every piece of art to make it feel not like a hotel, but like a magnificent, welcoming home. After he passed, the resort became my connection to him, a beautiful living monument to our love. So when my son-in-law chose to bring his mistress there, he wasn't just cheating on my daughter. He was defiling a sacred space. He was dancing on my husband's grave, and he was about to find out that the gentle old woman who designed the lobby also owned the bank that held the resort's deeds. My story, the part that truly explains the hurt, began 15 years ago, on a warm spring evening when my daughter Olivia brought a young man home for dinner. Oh, my Olivia. She is my heart and soul, a gentle, creative spirit who inherited her father's kind eyes and my love for beautiful things. She's a botanist, spending her days cultivating rare orchids, a creature of quiet patience and deep-rooted kindness. And Marcus, the young man she brought home, seemed to be her perfect match. He was dazzling, ambitious, charming, with a rags-to-riches story that was impossible not to admire. He came from nothing and had put himself through business school, and he treated my Olivia like she was a rare flower he was lucky enough to tend. He was impeccably polite, calling me Mrs. Monroe and listening with rapt attention as I spoke about Arthur and the building of the resort. I remember him looking at the framed photographs in our living room. "He was a great man, Mrs. Monroe," he'd said, his voice full of what I believed was genuine reverence. "To build something so beautiful, so lasting, it's an inspiration. I hope one day I can give Olivia a life that's even a fraction as wonderful." How could a mother's heart not melt? I saw in him a chance for my daughter's happiness, a man who would protect her gentle heart and build a beautiful life with her. When they married a year later, I was overjoyed. In the beginning, their life was a picture of happiness. I gave them the down payment for a beautiful home, and soon my grandson, Sam, was born, filling our lives with a new and brilliant light. And the resort, the Cypress Key Grand, became their happy place, just as it had been for Arthur and me. We would spend holidays there, a whole family united. The sensory details of those early years are as vivid as yesterday. I can still smell the mix of salt air and the night-blooming jasmine that grew along the resort's pathways. I can hear the sound of Sam's delighted shrieks as Marcus taught him to swim in the sprawling, lagoon-like pool. I remember the warm family dinner scenes in our favorite oceanfront restaurant, the table filled with laughter, the sunset painting the sky in strokes of orange and pink. The entire staff knew us. They were like a second family. The resort's general manager, a quiet, dignified man named Mr. Chen, had been hired by my husband 30 years ago. He was a man of immense loyalty and integrity, and he watched my grandson grow up, always greeting him with a warm smile and a special cookie from the pastry chef. And Marcus? Oh, Marcus loved the resort. He reveled in the status it gave him. He particularly loved the family rate, a privilege Arthur had established for us, which meant we could enjoy the resort's amenities at a fraction of the cost. Marcus saw it as a symbol of his arrival, of his acceptance into the Monroe family. He would sign the checks at the end of our stays with a flourish, the deeply discounted total a testament to his new, privileged life. I truly believed he was grateful. I believed he loved my daughter and the life they were building. I saw a man who worked hard, who cherished his wife and son, and who respected the legacy of the family he had married into. I was so proud to have him as a son. I thought my daughter's future was secure, that her heart was in safe hands. I had welcomed him into my family, into my home, and into the sanctuary my husband and I had built. I never imagined he would one day use that sanctuary, and the privilege that came with it, as the stage for his most profound and hurtful betrayal. My dears, the beautiful family tapestry we had woven over the years didn't unravel overnight. It was a slow, deliberate pulling of a single thread, a thread of disrespect that eventually caused the entire picture to fall apart. At first it was just his work. Marcus, who had been an ambitious but present husband, became consumed by his job. He started his own financial consulting firm, a venture I had proudly helped fund with a significant investment. The late nights and important business trips began to multiply. When they would visit the resort, he would spend most of the time in their suite, glued to his laptop, taking urgent calls on the balcony, while Olivia and Sam were at the pool with me. Little by little, the warmth in his interactions with Olivia began to cool. The adoring husband was replaced by a man who was often irritable and impatient. He started to criticize her, small, cutting remarks that were designed to make her feel small. Olivia, honestly, he'd say with an exasperated sigh, "Do you have to be so sentimental about everything?" Or, when she would get excited about a rare blooming orchid, he would roll his eyes. "It's a flower, honey, not the cure for cancer." A cold fear, a dreadful premonition, began to settle in my heart. Maybe I was just being paranoid? An overprotective mother? I would watch my daughter's gentle spirit seem to shrink a little more with each visit. She would make excuses for him. "He's just so stressed, Mom," she'd say, her voice a little too bright. The new firm is a huge responsibility, but I saw the truth in the shadows under her eyes. Then the hurtful details began to pile up, like barnacles on the hull of a ship, ugly and hard to remove. He started to treat the resort, my husband's legacy, not as a cherished family retreat, but as his own personal playground and corporate asset. He began bringing his business clients, brash, loud men who would treat the staff with dismissive arrogance. He would entertain them at the resort's finest restaurant, running up enormous bills for wine and cigars, all put on the room at the deeply discounted family rate. My heart felt like someone was squeezing it with their bare hands every time Mr. Chen, the loyal manager, would quietly mention an incident to me. "Mrs. Monroe," he'd say, his face a mask of professional discretion, "Mr. Thorne's guests were a little disruptive at the pool bar last night." I would apologize profusely and make sure the staff were handsomely tipped for their trouble, my cheeks burning with a shame that was not my own. The entitlement grew. He began to see the resort, and by extension, me, as a service he was owed. He would call me, not to chat, but to make demands. "Adeline," he'd say, having long ago dropped the respectful Mrs. Monroe, "I need you to call Chen And make sure my clients get the corner suite for their stay next week. And tell him to have a bottle of the '98 vintage waiting for them. He wasn't asking, he was instructing. I was no longer his mother-in-law. I was his personal concierge. At that moment, I felt like the sky was falling. The man I had welcomed, the man I had funded, the man I had trusted with my daughter's heart, was treating me with a disrespect that was breathtaking. I tried to speak to Olivia about it, but she was in such deep denial. It was like talking to a brick wall. "Mom, that's just how business is done," she'd say, parroting lines he had clearly fed her. "He's just trying to build his company. It's for us. It's for our family." Tears just wouldn't stop flowing some nights as I sat alone in my quiet house, looking at pictures of Arthur. What would he have done? He would have seen right through this man. But I was alone, and my daughter was blind. I told myself to be strong, for the children's sake, for my grandson, Sam. I prayed that this was just a phase, a symptom of stress that would pass. The final, irrevocable proof that it was not a phase came a year ago. It was their 15th wedding anniversary. Olivia was so excited. She had booked their favorite suite at the resort, the one with the wraparound balcony, for a long weekend. She had bought a beautiful new dress. She envisioned a romantic, celebratory weekend, a chance to reconnect. The day before they were due to leave, he canceled. He called her from his office. I was with her when she took the call, her face lit up with anticipation. I watched as that light slowly, horribly, died. "A last-minute deal just came up in Singapore," he'd said, his voice a smooth performance of deep regret. "I have to fly out tonight. I am so sorry, baby. I'll make it up to you, I promise." She didn't cry. She just stood there, the phone in her hand, her face white and still. He was not going to Singapore. My investigator, the one I had reluctantly hired months ago, when the credit card statements became too suspicious to ignore, had already confirmed it. Marcus wasn't going to the airport. He was going to the resort. Our resort. But he wasn't going with my daughter. That was the breaking point. The absolute, final straw d'arteau. The casual, calculated cruelty of it was monstrous. He was stealing their anniversary, her one hopeful moment, to spend it with another woman in the very sanctuary that was supposed to be theirs. The rage that filled my heart then was cold, silent, and absolute. It was the rage of a mother whose child has been deeply, intentionally wounded. And in that moment, the loving, accommodating Adeline Monroe, who had stood by and hoped for the best, disappeared. In her place was the owner of the Cypress Key Grand, and she was about to do a full and final audit. I didn't tell Olivia the truth. Not yet. It would have been too cruel. Instead, I held her as she finally broke down and sobbed, not with anger, but with the quiet, devastating grief of a woman who finally knew, in her heart, that her marriage was over. "He didn't even try to lie well, Mom," she whispered. "He didn't even care enough to make it believable." After she had cried herself to sleep, I made a phone call. It was to Mr. Chen, the manager of the resort. My voice was calm, but it was the calm of the sea before a hurricane. "Chen," I said, "it's Adeline. I am on my way. I will be staying in the owner's villa. And I want it to be completely off the books. No one is to know I am there. No one." "Of course, Mrs. Monroe," he said, his voice immediately understanding that this was not a social visit. "One more thing, Chen," I continued. "My son-in-law, Marcus Thorne, is checking in today. He will be using the family rate. I want you to authorize it. I want you to treat him and his guest with the utmost professional courtesy. I want them to have a wonderful, completely untroubled stay, until the moment he checks out. Then, I want you to call me." He was quiet for a moment. "I understand completely, Mrs. Monroe," he said. And I knew he did. The trap was set. The arrogant mouse was about to enjoy the cheese, completely unaware that the owner of the house was watching. My dears, the drive to the Cypress Key Grand was the longest 2 hours of my life. Every mile was a war within my own heart, a battle between the grieving mother and the avenging matriarch. But when I saw the familiar, graceful entrance to the resort, my husband's dream, our legacy, a cold, hard clarity washed over me. He had brought his war to my doorstep. He was about to find out that I was the one who had built the fortress. The owner's villa was tucked away in a private corner of the property, surrounded by lush gardens, with its own small pool. It was my sanctuary, a place I hadn't stayed in since Arthur passed. The staff, under Mr. Chen's discreet orders, settled me in without a single record appearing on any guest manifest. I was a ghost, an invisible, all-seeing eye in the heart of my own kingdom. In that moment, something inside me broke for the final time. It was the last, lingering vestige of the woman who hoped, who made excuses, who put harmony above truth. I knew I couldn't go on like this, watching my daughter's life be eaten away by this man's lies. My awakening was not a single explosive event, but a quiet, solemn vow I made to myself in that silent villa. I would protect my daughter, and I would protect my husband's legacy, no matter the cost. My counterattack was not a matter of emotion. It was a matter of logistics. It was a grandma-style counterattack, using the years of accumulated power and personal connections that he had never bothered to understand. He saw me as a sentimental old woman. He was about to be reminded that I was the sole owner of a multi-million-dollar corporation. From trembling hands that had once held my crying daughter, I now moved with the firm determination of a CEO making executive decisions. From swallowing the bitter poison of his disrespect, I was now preparing to serve him the antidote, a dose of cold, hard, financial reality. For 5 days, I stayed hidden. From my secluded terrace, I had a perfect, distant view of the main pool. And I watched. I saw him with her. The woman was young, flashy, and had a laugh that was far too loud. I watched them lounge by the pool, ordering champagne. I watched him buy her a ridiculously expensive necklace at the resort's jewelry boutique. I watched them walk hand in hand on the beach at sunset, the same beach where he had once walked with my daughter and built sandcastles with my grandson. Every laugh, every touch, was a fresh stab in my heart, but it also hardened my resolve. While he was living his fantasy, I was making a series of very quiet, very deliberate phone calls. My first call was to the bank that held the mortgage on the beautiful home I had given them. I had gifted them the down payment, but the mortgage was in both their names. "Good morning," I said to the bank president, an old family friend. "I'm calling for a consultation. I need to understand the precise legal steps required for one party in a marriage to assume the full mortgage and remove the other party from the deed." My second call was to my corporate lawyer. "David," I said, "I need you to draft a new employment contract for the position of Executive Vice President of Operations at my company. A temporary, probationary contract. And I need a separate document, a termination letter for the current EVP, citing gross misuse of company funds. Have them both ready for my signature." My third call was to the dealership that managed our company's fleet of cars. "Tom," I said, "I'll be needing to repossess one of our vehicles. A black Mercedes sedan. I will let you know the time and location." My final call was to Mr. Chen. "Chen," I said, "tomorrow morning. Mr. Thorne will be checking out. I want you to be the one to personally handle his bill. And I want you to do exactly as I instruct." The passive endurance was over. The trap was meticulously set. The active attack was imminent. He had spent his week basking in the sun, drunk on his own arrogance. He had no idea the storm was about to break. The next morning, I was sitting in Mr. Chen's office, watching the live security feed of the front desk on his monitor. It was checkout time. And then, I saw them. Marcus and the woman, walking arm in arm to the counter, looking tanned, happy, and utterly pleased with themselves. Mr. Chen, a picture of calm professionalism, walked out to greet them. "Good morning, Mr. Thorne," he said with a polite nod. "I trust you had a pleasant stay." "The best, Chen, the best," Marcus said, beaming. He was acting like he owned the place. He pulled out his wallet. "Just put it on my account. The usual family rate, of course?" "Of course," Mr. Chen said. He tapped a few keys on his computer. Then he paused. "Oh, there seems to be a small issue with the billing, sir," he said, his voice a perfect blend of professional concern and deference. "The family discount code appears to have been deactivated this morning." Marcus's smile faltered. "Deactivated? What are you talking about? Just run it again. It's the Monroe family account." "I have, sir," Mr. Chen said. "But my instructions, which came directly from Mrs. Monroe herself, are very clear. The family discount is for family only." He slid a freshly printed bill across the marble counter. "This is the full rack rate for your 5-night stay in the oceanfront suite, plus all incidentals. The total comes to $27,312. I watched on the monitor as the color drained from Marcus's face. He stared at the bill, then at Mr. Chen, then at the bill again. $27,000, he choked out. "This is insane. There's been a mistake. Get Adeline on the phone." "I'm afraid Mrs. Monroe is not to be disturbed," Mr. Chen said calmly. "Fine," Marcus snarled, his face turning a blotchy red. He was trying to maintain his bravado in front of his mistress, who was now looking extremely nervous. He pulled out his personal American Express card. "Just put it on this." Mr. Chen took the card and swiped it. And then came that beautiful, beautiful sound. The sharp, final beep of a card being declined. "I'm so sorry, sir," Mr. Chen said, not looking sorry at all. "It seems this card has been declined." Of course it had been. I had called the credit card company the day before, explained that my son-in-law was the primary cardholder on a supplementary account that I paid for, and that I was revoking his access due to fraudulent activity. He stood there, utterly humiliated. His face was a thundercloud of rage and impotence. He didn't have $27,000. The life of luxury he pretended to have was a complete sham, funded by my company, my family rate, my credit. He was a king with no clothes. I stood up and walked out of Mr. Chen's office. The time for hiding was over. I walked across the lobby, my heels clicking on the marble floor. I saw him there, floundering, his mistress looking at him, now, not with adoration, but with a dawning look of contempt. He saw me, and his eyes widened in horror. He finally understood. "Adeline," he stammered. "What is the meaning of this?" I didn't answer him. I simply walked up to the counter and addressed Mr. Chen. "Chen," I said, "please be a dear and put Mr. Thorne's bill on my personal account. We'll sort it out later." I then turned to Marcus. My voice was quiet, but it carried across the silent lobby. "The meaning of this, Marcus," I said, "is that the party is over. Your car is being towed from the parking garage as we speak. Your corporate credit cards have all been canceled. And this," I slid a crisp white envelope across the counter towards him, "is your termination letter. You have 1 hour to get a taxi, go to the house, my house, pack a bag, and leave the keys. Your wife, my daughter, will be waiting for you." He just stared at me, his mouth opening and closing, speechless for the first time in his life. The arrogant man who had tried to ruin my daughter was ruined himself, not with a shout, but with a quiet accounting of the fact. My husband's legacy was safe. And my daughter was finally free. He left the resort in a taxi, a single defeated man, his flashy mistress having disappeared the moment she realized his gold card was actually plastic. The clear outcome of his arrogance was a swift and total annihilation of the life he had so carefully constructed. He had nothing because he had earned nothing. He had been living a life on loan, and his credit had finally run out. The conversation I had with Emily the next day was the hardest of my life. I drove home, where Olivia was waiting for me. I sat her down at my kitchen table, and with the folder of photographs between us, I told her everything. I watched the man she loved, the life she had built, crumble to dust in her eyes. Her heartbreak was a terrible, gaping wound. There were days of tears, of rage, of a grief so profound I thought it might swallow her whole. But my Olivia, my gentle, kind-hearted Olivia, has a spine of steel she inherited from her father. Beneath the pain, she found a strength she never knew she had. She saw the truth of Marcus's betrayal, not just of her, but of her trust, her time, and her love. She mourned the man she thought he was, and then she let him go. The divorce was quiet and uncontested. Marcus, with no job, no money, and the threat of criminal charges for embezzlement hanging over his head, had no power to fight. He signed everything Olivia's lawyer put in front of him. Olivia, my strong, beautiful Olivia, got the house, full custody of Sam, and a secure future, free from his poison. He walked away with nothing but the clothes on his back and the consequences of his own choices. The lesson I learned, my dears, is that sometimes protecting your family means you have to be the one to tear down the beautiful false house they are living in. For years, I enabled him. My generosity, my desire for my daughter's happiness, became the very tools he used to deceive her. I learned that you cannot buy loyalty, you cannot purchase character, and you cannot gift a man a sense of integrity. Those are things a person must build for themselves. And so, to all of you out there who are pouring your heart and soul into a situation that feels wrong, please listen to Grandma. Children, remember Grandma's words. A beautiful facade is worthless if the foundation is rotten. Do not be afraid to look in the cellar. At this age, I finally understand that true love is not about maintaining a perfect picture. It's about having the courage to tear it all down and build something real and true in its place, even if you have to do it alone. It's been a year since that terrible week. My daughter, my Olivia, is blooming. Free from the constant weight of Marcus's criticism and deceit, she has blossomed. Her orchid business is thriving, and she has filled her home, truly, her home now, with so much life and color. She is a wonderful mother and a strong, independent woman. She is the woman I always knew she could be. We've come back to the resort. We are reclaiming it. It is no longer a place of painful memories. It is our sanctuary once more, a monument to the man who built it, and to the strength of the family he left behind. Sharing this story with you all has been the final step in closing that ugly chapter. Thank you for your quiet company, for listening with such grace. It helps to heal the heart. Please, my sweethearts, if this story has meant something to you, I would be so honored if you would like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the little notification bell. It would be a joy to continue sharing my life with you. Please, share your own thoughts in the comments. Your stories of strength and resilience are a gift. Grandma will always love you all. Remember that you are the architect of your own life and the owner of your own legacy. Do not let anyone defile what you have built. Everyone deserves to live in a house built on the solid foundation of truth and respect. Love you all. This is Grandma Adeline, and I'll see you in the next story. Hashtags. Hash, und, hash. Und, hash. Und, hash, und. Hash, und, hash, und. Hash, and, hash. Hash, und, hash. Hash, und, hash, Hash, hash,